combat. The action in action-adventure. It's one of the core pillars on which a game like Echoes of the End is built. And for many players, the biggest deciding factor in whether or not they're having fun. But how do you create that fun? How do you ensure that players feel powerful, while at the same time making sure they feel challenged by the encounters the game throws at them? You boil it down to video game basics. You force them to make decisions. This is Myrkur Games. We're a small game development studio in Reykjavik, Iceland, and we are working on our first ever video game, Echoes of the End. Since we uploaded our gameplay trailer last week, we've gotten a lot of feedback, and frankly, we've been thrilled to see it. A lot of folks were commenting about the combat feeling a little bit slow, and we're going to continue working on that until launch. We've already implemented some changes, and we're going to continue fine-tuning them for the next few weeks. So rest assured, we're paying attention. We're going to try and get everything done we can in time to make the game as good as it can be. The video you're about to watch was filmed before we got all that feedback, so the footage we're using isn't fully up to date. But since we're talking about design principles, we figured we'd show it to you anyway. So let's carry on with the show. When we started making Echoes of the End, we already had some pillars in mind for the combat system. First, Rin is both a trained warrior and a vestige, someone born with an affinity for ancient, destructive magic. She's powerful, and playing as her, you should feel powerful too. Second, we wanted the interplay of melee combat and magic to be central to the experience. It's about mobility and positioning, weaving in and out of range, and using your abilities to control the battlefield. Third, we didn't want it to be a cakewalk. Rin is powerful, but it's that power that makes it even remotely possible for her to emerge victorious against the enemies she's going to face on her journey. Let's see what a combat encounter looks like.
Rin has several basic abilities. These are the abilities that are available to her at the start of the game. These include your basic sword swings, your dodges, and your parries. But more uniquely, my favorite ability in the game by far is the shift, which allows you to take an enemy and then shift it over in another location. It is unique. It allows so many tactical opportunities that you simply wouldn't have without it. And it really gives you this sense of being able to position enemies. One of my favorite things is just shifting things off ledges. Just letting gravity handle that problem for me is fantastic. You also have the Blast, which is a nigh-instant ability that immediately creates the large AoE damage zone in front of you that staggers enemies back. The Drain is the main way you regenerate health in combat. You are locked in place, usually so is the enemy you're targeting, and you'll slowly begin damaging them and healing in turn for as long as you keep channeling. So here we see the player in this instance has chosen to start a Drain on the big troll. And this will make his drain bar begin to deplete as he regenerates health. What he has to be aware of here, though, is that this scorpion is approaching him, which might seek to cancel out his drain, so he might have to do something about that. And we can see indeed, right as the scorpion is about to attack him, he cancels his drain with a little bit left in the tank to perform this well-timed parry. So Abram's stun ability is a very powerful ability because it simply stuns an enemy. And what makes it really powerful is that it's completely divorced from the rest of Rin's kit, which means that you can use it even when you're in an animation for something else. This makes Abram a very powerful tool that you can only use so often.
Do not let them interfere!
So the most common enemy faction by far in the game are the Dalsmen from the Ragandal. And you fight a lot of them throughout the game. And they come in multiple different varieties, each of which you have to handle fairly differently. And this immediately leads to a bunch of decision making. So, where do you go first? And we can see the player in this case runs around the front line of enemies to go for the two casters. Now these are ranged enemies and they'll try and hit you while you're fighting the others. This seems like a wise decision. And he shifts one as it's low on health into another enemy to both stun the other enemy and finish off the one he was actually targeting. And here, once again, we can see Abram's stun being used to take him out of the fight. So we could see there that the player chose to shove the enemy into Abram, which is one of the many things you can do. And you'll see he'll do this punch. And in this case, it sufficed to kill the enemy, which is very useful. And it's pretty comical seeing this more than middle-aged man knock a guy on his ass by punching him. Abram is not static in combat, he actually acts quite a bit. We'll see that I think the player by this point knows that Abram is going to get this Vanguard, so he doesn't have to worry too much about him. Now there's only one enemy left, and between clever use of Abram's stun and dodges and parrying, this shouldn't be an issue.
Looking at that encounter, you can see how it breaks down into phases. The moment you enter the fight, you start to plan how you're going to win. You see the enemies, where they're placed, and you set goals in your head. Then, you put your plan into action. It shifts as you go, but you keep your strategy in mind as you adjust. Dodge the scary attacks, focus on where and how you're going to use your abilities, where you're finding windows to recover. But like Iron Mike said, everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. You take a hit. You improvise, and you find a way to turn the tide back in your favor. That's the thing about combat. It's not just a part of the story. It creates its own story within each encounter. The story of how you, personally, overcame the Reichenthal. And that's a story best enjoyed with a big old glass of game juice.
If you simply swing a sword at an enemy and there's a number goes down, it's not really that satisfying. If it wheels his arms, goes into the same direction as the sword swing, it feels a lot more powerful and it makes you feel pretty good. But what other things do we add to make this combat feel satisfying? VFX, where you see the sword drills, the blood spatters on the ground and from the character's body. You use like flashes of light when you hit a character. We add a lot of gore, a lot of blood, a lot of dismemberments as well. Hit stops are basically holding a frame for just a tad longer, so you know for sure that you hit that character, aside from all the hit reactions, all the VFX, just to amplify it as much as we can. So the camera, we play a lot with that as well. We have special executions that when you kill an enemy in a cool way, the camera frames it in the best way possible to just make it feel a little bit more cinematic with the combination of the VFX, the hit reactions, the camera, the cool actions that you get. So it feels sort of rewarding to fight as Rin.
Of course, there's a lot more elements that go into designing good combat. You need solid pacing, moments to breathe, and moments where the challenge seems insurmountable. You need variety, different enemies with new abilities to learn and adapt to, fresh battlefields with their own resources to take advantage of. And then there's boss fights, and they put a unique spin on the whole formula. Each one is a fresh challenge that reminds you that while you may be powerful, so are they.
This skill tree features a whole bunch of upgrades, but some of them provide unique tactical opportunities. For example, the player recognizes that there's quite a bit of space between him and the enemies, and also that they're fairly close to each other. He chooses to use one of the upgrades in our skill tree. That's an enhancement of the heavy attack. In this instance, it throws out this giant arc that is able to hit multiple enemies at a time, and it comes out pretty fast. Very useful if the enemies are sort of tightly grouped, and it leads him to kill this one scorpion. We also have abilities that improve upon already existing of the basic abilities in the game. The one he uses here is called Aftershock, and it allows him to make this great big stomp after he hits a parry. And it's uniquely useful because it provides this large AoE around the player, which can disable enemies and knock them away, giving you a bit more space to breathe, opposed to the normal follow-up we usually do on parry attacks. This one will hit all of them, giving you even more space at the cost of a little bit of mana. And it rewards you for going for the risky play of taking the parry. We also see once again that the player has created more space, allowing him to use the sword throw. The sword throw is a very powerful ability because it deals a lot of single target damage, but also has the ability to hit multiple enemies if they're grouped up in a line, which obviously deals a lot of damage to the lot of them. Now these are but a few of the upgrades, and we have plenty more to show you on that front.
That's it for now. If you think this game looks cool, you can add it to your Steam wishlist by clicking the first link in the description below. If you haven't seen our trailer, click on this video here, and if you want to watch how we mocap animations for this combat and the cutscenes, click on this video here. If you've seen both and you want to see more, then subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when we release new videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in IMA.